Thank you, Mr. President. Ang haba ng kwento ni tatay sa anak niya. Pero thank you, Senator Alan, for that. Ako naman sa mata ng isang nanay. So, I was a young mother like Camille when I first became a senator in 2004. And ang dami ko na rin natutunan, ang dami kong sakit ng ulo, ang dami kong joyful moments in my job. My two daughters who were then 5 and 9 are now grown-ups, and my son is now 16. So, I have come to believe that the true measure of progress is not in labels or statistics alone, but in whether our children are healthier, safer, better educated, and equipped with opportunities to succeed in this life, the life na tayo naman ang gumawa para sa kanila. A few weeks ago, the World Bank upgraded the Philippines to an upper middle income country. Paano ba ang visualization natin pag sinabing upper middle income country na tayo? Seriously, dear colleagues, indulge me, close your eyes, and imagine what that country looks like. So I had more time to think about it, so I don't have to close my eyes, but really I challenge you. Di ba ang naiisip natin, blue skies, parks, happy family, right? That's always the vision. Happy family, grandparents, everybody healthy, parents that can provide for their children, 3 meals on the table, kaya umuwi ni tatay o ni nanay ng matinong oras na hindi naubos yung panahon niya dun sa traffic na 4 na oras na hindi siya makasakay dahil maayos ang transportation system, o kung sa probinsya man sila nakatira, meron man lang, katulad ng sinabi ni Senator Alan, may tren man lang doon, may bus, kung ano man, pwedeng mag-enjoy ng weekend. May mga sidewalk, bike lanes, park. Parents are watching their kids play sports or watching their kids perform in a concert. Di ba yan ang magandang weekend? Tapos yung mga bata, kumakain ng masustansyang pagkain. At katulad ng sinabi ko, healthy ang parents and grandparents dahil meron din silang health system na madali nilang ma-access. At pag holiday, pwedeng may handa. At guess what? Pwedeng umuwi sa probinsya na hindi ubos ang sahod dahil hindi ganun kamahal ang airfare na katulad ng dinadanas natin ngayon. Pero napakahirap ipagmalaki at ipaliwanag na tayo ay isang upper middle income country kung hindi naman ito nararamdaman ng karamihan ng mga Pilipino. Ano nga ba ibig sabihin nito? It means that the country has a gross national income per capita between $4,496, so 277,000 pesos, okay, to $13,900 or 860,000 pesos, reflecting the economic size rather than individual household income. So ito po ay national economic size. Hindi po to individual income. So when you look at the vast majority that are minimum wage earners, less than minimum wage earners, informal sector, hindi naman sila nandito sa income bracket na ito. This is merely an income classification. It is a way of grouping economies according to average income. It does not reflect the struggles of ordinary Filipinos, ordinary families, because this is our reality. SWS Survey 2026 reveals that 52% or 14.5 million Filipino families identify themselves as poor, while 42% consider their families as food poor. Hindi man lang makakain ng maayos. Another SWS survey of 2026 states that 23.2% of Filipino families experience involuntary hunger in the first quarter of 2026. Involuntary po, hindi po nagda-diet, sadyang wala na ho talagang makain. According to PSA, poverty incidence, this is as of 2023, is 15.5% or 17.54 million poor Filipinos. So when we celebrate our status as an upper middle income country, ang pakiramdam ng tao, you do not see us. You do not hear us. Hindi nyo kami nakikita. Hindi nyo kami napapakinggan. Hindi nyo ramdam ang hirap namin. Kaya ako po, never ho ako nagse-celebrate kahit ilang taong ko na yung naririnig na malapit na tayo mag-upper middle income. But it does not translate to a better life for most of the Filipinos. I can spend all my time on this. I will not because yes, we can argue it is better because makaka-avail ng mas magandang mga loans and so on and so forth. Pero matagal pa ho ang effect nun. In fact, if you look at what investors are looking for, they have a long list of wants if they will invest in this country. Hindi lang basta yung makita nilang upper middle income ka. So I look to the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. With only 4 years left before the 2030 deadline, and as the chairman of the Senate's Committee on SDGs, Innovation and Futures Thinking, we have been meeting with various agencies to understand where we truly stand. According to the data from PSA, out of 17 SDGs, only 10 have shown progress since 2015. Only 10. However, even among these 10, 8 are not progressing fast enough such that we will meet the targets of 2030. So, mukhang fail po tayo sa Sustainable Development Goals. Even more concerning is that 2 goals are actually moving backwards. These are the SDG 3 on good health and well-being and SDG 11 on sustainable cities. More on health later, but for now, I'd like to point out that the decline in SDG 11 on sustainable cities and communities is particularly alarming because, according to the United Nations, by 2050, nearly 68% of the world's population is projected to live in urban areas. PSA has stated if our cities are not safe, resilient, and sustainable, millions of Filipinos will bear the consequence. Sadly, in many of these areas, we still lack the timely and reliable data needed to know where we are making progress, if at all. And if we do not have unified data to measure our progress, we cannot improve at all. That is why, as we reflect on yesterday's accomplishment, as mentioned during the President's SONA, I want to ask a simple question. Are Filipino families truly living better lives? On health, we welcome the President's emphasis on preventive care, the expansion of YAKAP and Gamot, and the implementation of zero balance billing. These are important steps which I have also supported through the years. These are also aligned with the SDG goal number 3. But the true measure of universal health is whether every Filipino can obtain timely and quality care without being pushed into debt. On universal health care, it is anchored on the following pillars: preventive care, equipped health facilities, adequate health professionals, and sustainable funding. Without this, it remains a vision. Vision lang po, pangarap lang po, hindi reality. On PhilHealth and the Syntax and PCSO and PAGCOR collection, we recognize the full allocation of Syntax revenues to PhilHealth in the 2026 General Appropriations Act. I thank the now Senate President for supporting our push for this to happen. First time in many, many, many years. Despite this development, however, PhilHealth has still been deprived of over, listen to this, dear colleagues, over 292 billion in earmarked and unreleased funds. Pera po ng PhilHealth yan. 113.44 billion pesos is the unallocated Syntax collection from 2023 to 2025. May slide po tayo. Tingnan po natin. In 2023, the Syntax earmark for PhilHealth was 83.90 billion. Ang nasa NEP is 79 billion. Ang nasa GAA is 79 billion. So kulang ng 4.90 billion. Parang maliit lang naman. In 2024, 79.01 billion pesos ang earmark. Ang nasa NEP ay 80.28 billion pesos. Ang nilagay sa GAA is 40.28. Kulang ng 38.73 billion pesos. And in 2025, 69.81 billion pesos ang Syntax earmark. Ang nasa NEP po ay 53.13 billion. Ang nasa GAA, 0. And so, ang unallocated syntax in the final, ang kulang po is 69.81 billion for a total of 113.44 billion. Nasaan na po yan? Pera po yan para PhilHealth, para sa pagpapagamot sa ating taong bayan. Now, this is only the unallocated syntax collection. Meron pa ho yan sa PCSO and PAGCOR. Ang sa PCSO and PAGCOR naman, ang PhilHealth share ay dapat 119.80 billion. Ang na-reflect sa GAA is 42.34 billion pesos. Ang kulang is 77.46. Na-release po ba yung 42? Kulang na nga ng halos kalahati. Hindi pa na-release. Zero ang na-release. Zero. Finally, yung sa unreleased appropriation, 2023 and 2024. Alam ko po ito, hindi po ako expert naman, hindi po ako nagme-memorize ng numbers, pero familiar po tayo dahil tayo po ang nag-defend ng budget ng health for these years. Ang unreleased appropriation, meaning na-appropriate na, nandyan naman nakalagay, 101.43 billion, never na-release. And that is why the total amount due is 292 billion pesos, almost 1/3 of a trillion. So nagtataka tayo, pinagmamalaki, 3 million ang nakinabang sa zero balance billing. Baka naman kung na-release to, baka naman 10 million ang nakinabang sa zero balance billing, hindi ho ba? Kailangan kompleto po ang figures natin kasi baka naman hindi nire-report sa presidente ang katotohanan. Hindi ho fair yun. So if PhilHealth received the funds that are legally mandated to collect, they could have reduced out-of-pocket expenses of Filipino patients. Yung nilalabas sa bulsa ng Pilipino, nabawasan sana. Pwede rin ma-expand ang benefit packages dahil maraming package hindi covered. Malalaman mo na lang, ay hindi pala covered yung sakit ko. Ay yung ganito palang klase. Sorry, hindi kasama. At yun din pong premium subsidies for indirect contributors na laging kunukulang katulad ng mga indigent and senior citizens makokompleto. So, out-of-pocket spending and zero balance billing. Access to healthcare must also include protection from financial hardship. In 2024, sabi, 42.7% of Filipino household pay 42.7% of the country's current health expenditure. So meaning, labas ng pocket nila yung 42.7% ng gastos. Ano ba yung standard? Well, WHO says to achieve universal health care, a country's citizens should only be paying around 15 to 25%. So ang goal is 15 to 25. Di naman zero. Siguro kung upper income na tayo, baka zero na. Pero ang goal lang naman is hanggang 50 to 25, 42 po tayo. So sobra-sobra pa ang ina-out of pocket ng kababayan natin. Siyempre, kung mahirap ka, wala ka talagang pangbayad. So, I'll take time to share this story. I've shared it before, but it is worth sharing again. There's this place that I frequent when I need to be inspired. It's called the Tuloy Foundation, where Father Rocky and his team take care of either orphan children or children who are in need of a safe home. Many of their children come from Mindanao, where their families, their villages are in conflict with the law. Anyway, and they also support street children. So there was 2 boys who were there. And the older boy, 2 brothers. The older brother was maybe 11 or 12, and his younger brother is probably 6. Duling yung kanyang kapatid. So, pinakilala sa akin ni Father Rocky, and then sabi ni Father Rocky, oh, ayan, sabi ni Senator Pia, sasamahan ka daw niya para magpatingin, para yung mata mo magamot na. Tapos sabi nung kuya, hindi sumasagot. I would have thought na, yay, di ba? Parang maayos na yung paningin ng kapatid ko. Hindi sumasagot si kuya. So, I was like, oh, ayaw mo ba? Hindi naman masakit. Tsaka okay yan. May bayad ho ba? Kasi wala akong pera eh. Imagine an 11-year-old. Immature in many ways, but mature enough to know wala silang pambayad. So, that is the state of the nation for many children, for many families. The president reported that the expansion of zero balance billing, which he said already benefited nearly 3 million patients. He mentioned that in his statement. That was already mentioned last year. And it took a week or even longer for the then Secretary of Health to explain that this only applied to DOH hospitals, DOH hospital wards. So meanwhile, the LGUs all over the country nataranta kasi syempre, yung mga constituents nila pupunta sa LGU hospital, nag-e-expect ng zero balance. Hindi naman available ang zero balance doon kasi kaka-launch lang ng program. So yun nga, it took a few weeks, finally, na-clarify na DOH hospital wards lang. Inulit po ngayon. Naintindihan ko po yun, dumadaan po tayo sa, ano ba tawag doon, pag tinetesting pa natin yung program, piloting pa lang, naintindihan ko po yun. Pero ito yung reality natin. Out of more than 1,200 government and private hospitals nationwide, zero balance billing is available in only 87 DOH-run facilities and 4 GOCC specialty hospitals and 6 LG hospitals that are now being piloted. So wala pang 100. So 1,100 other hospitals do not have zero balance billing. Again, hindi naman kailangan agad-agad, but i-announce natin to eh. Iklaro natin kung ano yung state of the nation natin. More than 1,100 hospitals do not have zero balance billing. So, these are the details. A vast majority of our country's healthcare capacity, including 346 LG-run hospitals and 864 private hospitals, do not have zero balance billing. So ang mga kababayan natin, pag yan ang napuntahan nyo, sorry po, wala pong ZBB doon. This narrow scope is further compounded by geographical imbalances. 40 out of the country's 82 provinces do not have a single DOH hospital. So, 40 provinces, walang DOH hospital doon. Eh di paano? Sasakay ka ng tricycle, kalabaw, jeepney para pumunta sa kabilang probinsya para maghanap ng DOH hospital. That is the reality. Again, alam ko naman it takes time, pero we have to be honest about where we are. The 87 DOH hospitals are concentrated in only 42 provinces and major urban centers. As a result, patients in underserved provinces must travel 3 to 4 hours across municipal lines just to reach a facility that offers zero balance billing. In urban areas like Metro Manila, bed capacity is predominantly provided by private hospitals, which far outnumber regional public facilities. So kung taga Metro Manila ka, mas konti pa rin. Madami na nga ang tao, mas konti din ang DOH hospital. Coupled with low bed-to-patient ratios and chronic overcrowding, relying solely on 87 DOH facilities is simply not enough. As such, in the 2026 budget, we had to push for additional funding. Funding, additional, amendment, tawagin yung amendment, tawagin yung insertion, kahit ano pang gusto nyo itawag. Pinagmamalaki ko na pinaglaban ko ang additional funding sinuport ng ating chairman, now Senate President, ang additional funding for ZBB, 3.3 billion operation of DOH hospitals in Metro Manila, another 6 billion operation of DOH regional hospitals and other health facilities, and 1 billion for DOH Universal Healthcare Fund for zero balance billing. Kasi yung pondo nun, kulang talaga. Okay, I move on to another topic. Human resource for health shortage. However, facilities cannot function without health professionals. The Philippines continues to face a serious shortage and unequal distribution of doctors, nurses, pharmacists, dentists, psychologists, and allied health workers, particularly in rural and underserved communities. WHO estimated a domestic shortfall of around 200,000 health workers, while approximately 1/3 of licensed Filipino health professionals are working abroad. Mag-aral dito, naghanap na ng ibang future sa ibang bansa. As a consequence, the Philippines has only 21.2 healthcare workers for every 10,000 people as of 2026, far below WHO's benchmark of 44.5 health workers for every 10,000. So more than kalahati yung kailangan, more than double yung kailangan isupport ng isang health worker sa recommended ratio. This requires sustained investment, which this representation has advocated through the expansion of medical scholarships under the Doktor para sa Bayan at kasama ng marami nating kasamahan dito sa Senado. Tayo ho ang nagpupush niyan. Maraming salamat sa Senate. Additional medical schools and investment in allied health. When we passed this law, there were only 8 medical SUCs. Today, we have 28. I am so proud of the Senate for pushing for this. It is a collective effort of this body. We have also been pushing for more science labs because kailangan ng doktor ng mga partners in healthcare. So lahat ng allied health, yan naman ang kailangan natin din pagtuunan ng pansin. Nabanggit ko na nga yun, may shortage tayo sa pharmacy, sa therapy, occupational therapists, physical therapists, sports, sa speech therapists, lahat po yun kulang na kulang. Lab technician, yung kumukuha lang ng blood test, kulang po yan all over the country. And this is a whole of government approach. We need SHED. We need the state universities. We need the higher education institutions to be a part of this because saan naman natin dadamputin itong mga professionals? We have to train them. We have to encourage them to enter into these professions. And then we have to make them realize that they have a bright future in this profession, in this country. So marami pa talagang kailangan gawin, kailangan po ma-address ito. And I end on this interesting note. Today, and I've seen this a couple of times, may mga vlog po akong nakita sa Instagram ng mga foreigners na magre-relocate na daw sa Philippines because mas maganda daw ang treatment and care for children with special needs sa Pilipinas. And this, the one I saw yesterday was from a foreigner who lives in the UK. Wow. Wow. And I think that is a tribute to our healthcare workers because alam ko naman na may shortage. Alam natin yan. So may mga foreigners na namamangha pa nga sa nagagawang trabaho ng mga health workers natin despite the fact that sila ay overworked and underpaid. So congratulations talaga sa mga health workers natin. Okay, I go to another example. I'll try to keep this short because you've all heard me talk about this. The vape epidemic. Data from the Food and Nutrition Research Institute reveals the rapid growth of youth vaping from 2015 to 2023, which recorded an increase in e-cigarette use of 0.8%, meaning less than 1%, to, guess what? 39.9%. Practically 40%, almost half of the youth are now vaping. Something that never even existed 10 years ago. A focus group research conducted by the Institute for Global Tobacco Control at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health finds a tidal wave of flavors from e-cigarette manufacturers have been embraced by Filipino youth since 2022, not even 5 years ago, when the Philippine government lifted restrictions on e-cigarette flavors and lowered the legal purchasing age to 18. 21 years na nga po yun, dear colleagues. But this Congress, not this particular Congress, but the previous Congress, reduced the age to 18. Why? I do not know why. The US FDA, this is interesting, dear colleagues. I reported many times that the US FDA has rejected 55,000 flavors in the US because unhealthy yung flavors. I researched again. 1 million flavors na ang na-reject ng US FDA sa mga nag-a-apply na magbenta ng flavored e-cigarettes sa US. Ang Pilipinas, ilan ang na-reject? Sige nga, isipin natin. 1,000 applications kaya? 5,000? Ang nireport is that they have rejected certain applications because of the flavor descriptors. Because it violates a provision in the law that we have na bawal mag-describe ng fruit flavors, bawal din mag-describe ng dessert flavors. So na-reject yun because of the way it was described, not the content of the vape. So good luck sa mga nagve-vape, sa mga magulang na pinapayagan nyo ang anak niyo nag-vape o hindi nyo alam na nagve-vape dahil hindi po tested yung mga products na yan. Pwedeng lason ang vini-vape ng mga anak natin dahil hanggang ngayon wala pang natitest. Dahil binigay ng Kongreso ang power din sa DTI na wala namang kakayanan ng DTI at hindi naman nag-aabala. For whose benefit? For the benefit of the vape manufacturing companies, many of whom are the same cigarette companies. That is the state of our nation. Vape promotional events using celebrities and endorsers and giveaways are still rampant and these are not allowed. Pero nangyayari pa rin. So I move on. Teenage pregnancy. I welcome the President's recognition of teenage pregnancy as an urgent national concern. When we fail to protect our youth from early pregnancy, we deprive them of a future. Napakahirap po ng problemang ito, Mr. President. And I intend to work with our colleagues who will be supporting clear measures on this. On sports, nako, napakasaya ko na nababanggit po ang sports. Aside from Kaloy Yulo, aside from Alex Ayala, nabanggit din po ang Philippine women's football team who made it to the World Cup 3 years ago and are going again next year. We're so proud. We're so proud. But it's not enough that we say that we are proud. We must invest in these young people. When does the investment happen? Not after they won, when they are training. So every year, and I don't know how many of our colleagues, but I know there's quite a few of us here who receive requests from our Philippine Sports Commission, from Philippine Olympic, from the various NSAs asking for support for the grassroots talent that they have identified. They need to train, they need to compete, they need facilities to be able to improve. I am a true believer that sports can change life. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the families, the private sector, the LGUs, and the coaches behind the success of all these athletes. Many of them are responsible for the success of these athletes. And we will never know who they are. So government can stand up. Wag lang natin palakpakan pag nandyan na. Tulungan natin habang hindi pa sila nadidiscover, habang hindi pa sila sikat. Education. I laud this year's education budget, truly a record-breaking 1.35 trillion or 4.4% of GDP. It finally meets the UNESCO recommended benchmark of 4 to 6%. But not much was said about it during the President's SONA. And at the proper time, we would be happy to expand on this because much progress has been made, but there are still a lot of work to be done. Classroom shortage is still there. Teachers' workload, alam na alam ng Senate President natin yan dahil siya po ay chairman ng committee natin ng basic education dati. Itong guidance counselor, I am proudly in a very early supporter of the need to figure out what we can do about this. And we now have 10,000 new school counselor associates, but it is still a far cry from the number we need. So we need to still find ways to attract even more young people to enter into this field. Sadly, natawag pa tayong bullying capital of the world. Sana hindi naman totoo, pero we still have to be conscious na may ganon at hindi tayo pumayag na manatili itong sitwasyon na ganito. Early childhood care and development, very close to my heart. I was blessed to grow up with a mother who specialized in early childhood education. And all the experts tell us how important this is. Every barangay needs at least one functioning child development center for early education, health, nutrition, and social development services. Coordinated po iyan. So much more has to be done, Mr. President, so much more. Sama ko na dyan ang inclusive education. The same gap between policy and practice show up in inclusive education. We have a law. This must be fully implemented so learners with disabilities get trained teachers, proper assessment, accessible facilities, and individualized support, not inclusion on paper alone. This historic education budget is an important achievement, but it must now produce historic improvements in learning, measured by whether our children can read, understand, think critically, and build a future for themselves. So I think this is my last topic on energy, fiscal concern, and unpaid work. Energy and fiscal concern, Mr. President, I fully support energy security, particularly the natural gas discoveries at Malampay. I'm a big supporter of indigenous supplies. Kailangan po yun. And also na matanggal na po ang systems losses that are being charged to our consumers. Importante po yun. I also recognize administration's initiative to increase the annual personal income tax exemption. Mr. President, nahiring na po natin ito nung tayo ay chairman ng Committee on Ways and Means. Pwede na ho itong ituloy-tuloy para maging law na to para sa mga kababayan natin nagsisipag at nagtatrabaho. There will be a higher threshold now for tax exemption. We also support the exemptions for small businesses. There were specific measures mentioned, but perhaps we can even improve on that and provide more support. On unpaid care work, Mr. President, this is SDG 5 on gender equality. Let me remind everyone that in the world, not just in the Philippines, women contribute many hours of unpaid work. In the Philippines, the Philippine Institute for Development Studies says that on average, a Filipino woman spends 28 hours a week on unpaid care work. So para na siyang full-time employee sa family. Is that wrong? No, there's nothing wrong with that. It is an amazing job. It is my favorite job. But it is unpaid work. So for many women, wala na silang maibang mapagkakitaan kasi dito na nila binuhos yung oras nila. And then they are not even recognized as contributing to society. Hindi man lang nabibilang as part of GNP yung napakahirap na trabaho nila. In other societies, binabayaran yon. It's either ikaw ay child care provider for senior citizen, provider for somebody who's sick. But for women, most do not get paid for this work. This is something that is a worldwide problem, and maybe the Philippines can finally do something about it, Mr. President. So, I move on to another topic, water situation. I welcome the President's continued commitment to irrigation, water security, and disaster preparedness. On water security, this is a pressing issue. The DNR reported that about 40 million Filipinos still lack access to a reliable water supply. The PIDS reports that 12.4 million remain without safe water. In the hearing I had, not in this Congress but in the last Congress, ang layo pa natin, Mr. President. Ang layo pa natin. We must work double time on this issue, Mr. President. Now, the link to food security is also clear. Farmers are the first to suffer when irrigation is weak or water is scarce because agriculture depends on water for planting, growing, and harvesting. Our colleague, Senator Aimee, might be sharing more about this. We have a lot of experts here, Mr. President, Senator Aimee, Senator Kiko. I leave it to them to elaborate more on this, but I join them in their passion to uplift the lives of our farmers. Reports in June 2026 show that 8 major Luzon dams are still receding, including Pantabangan, falling far below its normal levels. Mahirap po yan, Mr. President. Mahihirapan tayo sa agriculture natin, mahihirapan po ang mga farmers natin. That is why irrigation and water security must be treated as a core development investment and not a side program. Using strategic foresight and futures thinking, we must plan ahead by improving climate data, water monitoring, irrigation systems so we can prepare for shortages before they happen and protect families, livelihood, and food security. Sa ibang bansa nga, siguro yung sa mga upper income, middle income countries, talagang they rely po on foresight and futures thinking. They do. They use AI, they use technology to help forecast and to help their farmers. Di ko alam kung nagagawa po natin yon. Sana naman, for the one of the poorest sector in this country, dun tayo magbuhos ng atensyon sa kanila. In closing, it is my hope that by the time we begin the budget process, we will be able to provide all committee chairpersons with the detailed data and agency reports needed to guide their deliberation. Ito po yung mga SDG reports, yung mga indicators, so that our budget priorities are anchored not just on needs, but on measurable progress towards our SDG targets. Maraming salamat po.